Is that a fair accusation to make, that companies have been resorting to all sorts of high-risk strategies in order to survive?
You know, there's certainly a lot of noise that has characterized this year when it comes to corporate governance and the behavior of some of our issues. But whether that noise is well-founded and proves certain behavior, well, time will tell. We're doing our part of the investigation. The Financial Sector Conduct Authority is doing its part. The law will take its course. Unfortunately, it takes time to do these investigations, and that's deeply unsatisfying for people who'd like to see a head on a pole in the square today.
Absolutely.
But time will tell. But certainly this has been a much more noisy environment than we've been used to, and it's not helpful when one's trying to encourage investors to look positively at our country. Absolutely.
Of course, talking about our country, you're here to talk about the Tomorrow Conference. Thank you for coming in, and sorry to ambush you with that question around shenanigans by companies, and I'm putting that in quotation marks. You were in New York. You listened to people talking about South Africa from outside the country. What did you hear the most?
Yeah, Godfrey, it's the 6th annual conference that we've hosted together with Standard Bank and UBS and Old Mutual. And the tone this year was significantly different to last year. Obviously, if you're a South African, you would prefer to be a South African today than this time last year. Not so. Because we're finally starting to focus on the elephants in the room. We're dealing with the issues that everybody's talking about. We may not be at the end of dealing with it. We may not be dealing with them fast enough. But we are very good as a country on talking about the issues that are problematic. But what is so wonderful about the SA Tomorrow Conference every year is we start to focus on the things that we are doing to make a difference. And so you had the Minister of Finance talking about the very strict discipline that he will apply to the state fiscus, how much we spend, how we look at state-owned enterprises, the national wage as an example. This is what investors want to hear. Do you recognize your problems, and are you dealing with them, SA Inc.? You got the governor of the Reserve Bank strongly arguing the point for independence, and very, very well received by the investors. And you had 18 different CEOs from across the corporate sector and from some of the state-owned enterprises, all talking about what we were doing in this time to start to build growth and to focus on the things that make a difference. And then what investors' responses are is, wow, you guys actually understand that we need to see something different. But I think the big message from all of the investors that I spoke to is, right, we understand that you guys get it. Now, what are you doing to actually make a difference? So the interaction between government, business, and labor in the Jobs Summit, the interaction between government, business, and labor in the Investment Summit, the commitments on capital investment, these all ring very serious positive notes with investors, and I think it's for us as South Africans to deliver it now.
What were the most frequently asked questions around? In my head, I'm thinking, land expropriation without compensation.
Actually, you know, interestingly enough, it came up very, very little. It's not that it wasn't there. Certainly land expropriation is a big issue. The point that we made is that land is a very important and unresolved issue in this country, that everybody understands the importance of that, and business supports the equitable redistribution of land, but we need to get to a model where this is done carefully and without changing the Constitution as quickly as we possibly can. So once we had made that position, it no longer dominated the conversations. The conversations were all really about growth opportunities and state-owned enterprises.
And what was Tito's message? Because here, back home, I think for most of us, what we knew about the conference was that, exactly, when he spoke about shutting down SAA, which I agree with, by the way. I have always said, sell a SAA for a rand, because no one is going to take over 21 billion rand in debt with no strategy in place to try and fix the problems that the airline faces.
That wasn't the Minister of Finance's message at all. It was one of a number of messages, but his core message, bearing in mind that he is 3 weeks into his new role, his core message was, we understand the need for fiscal discipline. We understand that the pressure points are on the national wage, so the national wage bill. How do we control that? And what do we do about state-owned enterprises in general? Not only governance, but also recapitalization. So the being open to public-private partnerships, the being open to restructuring. The comment on SAA was but one of a minor number of comments. It did, of course, become the cause célèbre of his engagement.
Absolutely. What about the message from the investors in terms of what they wanted to hear the most about? I'm just interested to just get a sense of whether they actually are more worried than they are more interested in coming here.
I would say the mood was much more positive. It wasn't euphoric. It wasn't you're through it.
These are guys who are in an economy that's growing, what, 3%, 4%, right?
And they are looking at us as an investment destination that competes with other emerging markets. I think we have to realize that very carefully. That emerging markets have been risk off for quite some time. And when we score own goals, we take ourselves out of the competitive landscape. So they were really testing all the business people about, are you serious about this country? Are you serious about investment? Can we read the president's commitment to investment and to unlocking spaces for growth? Can we read that as a momentum that is not going to change? Are we on the track for growth?
Right.
And the frank answer for that is we're in the right direction.
Okay.
We haven't yet got the flywheel spinning properly to mix the metaphors. And I think investors therefore went away thinking, okay, the path is right, but we still need to speed up. And they certainly left us with a message that, you know, you guys now need to deliver.
Right.
And I think that as South Africans, we should take that to heart.
Sure.
We do not have a divine right to any investment attention.
It's a beauty contest, as someone said.
It is a beauty contest. It's a very significant beauty contest with economies that have grown faster than us, are bigger than us, and have resolved their Gini coefficient issues, brought more people out of poverty than we have done. But that said, let's not make the mistake of thinking there hasn't been enormous change in this country over the last 20 years. There, of course, has been. But it's ours to make a much better South Africa.
100%. And from your personal engagements, I would imagine after the conference or during the mingling in, you would speak to investors, you'd speak to CEOs coming through from other companies. Did you get a second message in terms of what people were worried about or interested in?
I think they're going to want to see the elections happen timeously and appropriately. I mean, we've all just assumed that the elections are going to happen.
Yes.
If you remember, this time last year we were talking about, are the ANC elections going to happen, not going to happen? Will they be accepted? I think it's really important that we recognize as South Africans that a well-executed democratic election that is supported by all the parties and where the results are supported by all the parties is a critical waypoint in making sure that investors stay with us.
Absolutely.
So I think that would be the second message that it's important that we start to talk about as a country.
Absolutely. Nicky, thanks.